Here comes the garland ritual. Hari Hari. Krishna Krishna. Why don't you come on forward a bit? In honor of Ram Navami, plan to speak something about Lord Ramachandra's pastimes. Something that I remember hearing from Srila Prabhupada, the very early stages of my experience of Krishna consciousness, was each of the forms of the Lord that appear in this world, they're each doing, like Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Pritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha duskritam. What's the third one? Dharma sangsthapanartaya sambhavami yuge yuge. Yet each one has something unique, or out of the unlimited opulences of the personality of God, it's some specific, profound feature. So with Lord Ramachandra, it's the ideal king. And we were hearing yesterday from Hanuman's prayers that in order to uphold the benediction given by Lord Brahma, that Ravana could not be killed this way, that way, the other way, but because he was so proud he didn't include humans, therefore Rama appeared as a human. Because one of the things the Supreme Lord does is he upholds the word of his devotees. Or you can say, he places himself subservient to the words of his devotees. So if you're a devotee, better be careful what you say. First you got to become a devotee. And then what you say becomes something that Krishna or Lord Ramachandra abides by. So because of that benediction of Brahma, Lord Ramachandra appeared as a human being. And as a human being, he's the best of human beings. And specifically best of kings. The ideal king. So don't sit right there because that's the... Come on up front. We got lots of space. Lots of space. Could you, young devotee, could you move forward and give some more space? Just see. Okay. The emblem of virtue. So I was given a variety of topics to speak about, and I'm going to speak a little bit about one of them, but mostly about Lord Ramachandra. So one of the questions that I was given, there were just options, some suggestions. The forms of the Lord as they appear in this world are given the Sanskrit name avatar, one who descends, avatar. And in the scriptures, particularly Padma Purana and many other places, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu details the forms of the Lord in 6 categories. 6 categories of avatars. But if you really want to go for a deep dive in like the ocean, it's really hard to find the bottom. Try Laghu Bhagavatamrita. It's a book that's about that thick. And it's just on that one topic. So there's subcategories of those 6 and subcategories of those subcategories, and where do you find the end to it? There's a statement in the scriptures that the forms of the Lord are as innumerable as the waves in the ocean. So supposing you tried to count the waves in the ocean, and when you're done counting the waves in the ocean, there's more waves. So you can't complete that count. Unlimited. But in categories. And so those, let's see, if the devotees in the room, collectively you can come up with the 6. 1. Raise your hand. Who knows one of the 6 categories of avatars? Purusha. We'll go through them one by one. Leela avatars. Very famous Leela avatars. Guna avatars. Yuga avatar. Shaktivesh avatar. That's 5. What are we missing? Manvantara avatars. So Purusha avatars was first one, right? Purusha avatars. What are the Purusha avatars? Purusha avatars, actually, if you read one of the in Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 3, it's a short list of forms of the Lord as they appear in the world, because that's one of the 6 questions the Lord creates, and then he enters into that which he creates. What are the forms? So the first of them is the Purusha avatars. The Purusha avatars are 3. Mahavishnu, or Karana Dakshayi Vishnu. He generates the universes. Garbha Dakshayi Vishnu enters into each of the universes, and Shira Dakshayi Vishnu enters into each atom of each of the universes. So those 3 are called Purusha avatars, and it's a detail. There's many details and sub-details, but it's actually one entity, manifest in 3 different ways, given names according to the function, but the overall function is creation and maintenance and arranging for the dissolution of the creation. Shrishti, Sthiti, and Pralaya. Through the agencies of their potencies and sub-potencies, but that's the Purusha avatars. Then what was the next one? Guna? Huh? Leela avatar. Yes, Leela avatars. So they're the very famous Das Avatar Stotra of Jayadev Goswami from Gita Govinda. Very wonderful composition, entire glorification of Govinda, the personality of Godhead. Jayadev was an exalted saint and pure devotee of the Lord. He predated Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Mahaprabhu really liked his compositions. So there's 10 principal named by Jayadev, but so many. So the main feature of them is they perform pastimes, Leela avatar. So Lord Ram is in that category of Leela avatar. And so far the first 2, they're both Vishnu Tattva. Vishnu Tattva means they're in the category of the Supreme Lord. Forms of the Supreme Lord that are full, plenary. Then next was Guna? guna avatars. They're not all Vishnu tattva. In fact, there's 3 different tattvas. Commonly, there's exception, but commonly Lord Brahma is a jiva. He oversees the guna, the mode of Rajagun. Lord Shiva oversees the mode of Tamagun. And Lord Vishnu oversees Sattvagun. And that's what they do. They're in charge of, they appear in this world and they're in charge of the modes of nature. It's through the modes of nature that the living entities are awarded their desire and their deserve, their karma and their guna. The material nature works through these 3 modes, and these are the presiding deities of the 3 modes, guna avatars. Then, which one was next? Shakti Avesh avatars. Generally, or Shakti Avesh avatar means a particular potency of the Supreme Lord is manifested fully in this category of Shakti Avesh avatar. Commonly, but not always, they're jivas. And an exception is Anantashesh. He's in the Vishnu Tattva category. He's considered to be in the Shakti Avesh of the 6. But others, just give examples. Prithu Maharaj. He embodied or carried or manifested the ruling potency, Palana Shakti, of the Supreme Lord. Narada Muni bears the fullness of the Lord's Bhakti Shakti. If you sit there by the door, you're going to get your back slammed when somebody comes up from the basement. We don't want that. So Bhakti Shakti, the 4 Kumaras, they're in the category of Shakti Avesh avatar. Which potency of the Lord do they manifest? Jnana Shakti, the Lord's knowledge potency. Lord Brahma manifests the Lord's creative potency, Srishti Shakti. So he's in 2 categories, one entity in 2 categories, Guna and Shakti Avesh. No problem. He's a powerful entity, and so forth. There's other Shakti Avesh avatars, so that's 4. We have left Manvantar avatar and Yuga avatar. So the Yuga avatars, this is category number 5 of 6. The Yuga avatars are forms of the Lord that appear in each age, commonly towards the beginning of each age, and their function on behalf of the Supreme Lord is they manifest the primary means for achieving spiritual perfection, especially meant for that age. Kapila appeared at very early stages of Satya Yuga, and he manifests, just without all going through the 4 yugas, they manifest the Yuga Dharma, the primary means of spiritual perfection for that age. That's their function. Yuga avatars. And Manvantar avatars, there's different descriptions. It's a little unclear, or different authorities, it's clear for different authorities, and for other authorities it's clear in a different way. Commonly, the Manvantar avatars are each one of the 14 manos in each day of Brahma. They're empowered by the Supreme Lord to carry out the function of giving laws for mankind. That's what manus do. And they also assist in the populating or filling up the universe, assisting Lord Brahma in having good praja. They have that function also. In some exceptional cases that I've seen, there's description, authoritative description, that the Manvantar avatars are the presiding deity of a particular Manu. It's very, very rare to see like that. So it commonly is this other. So there's the categories of avatars, and then subcategories and subcategories of those subcategories. It's such an important topic that our principal Acharya, the followers of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the principal one amongst so many great, great personalities, was Rupa Goswami, and he wrote a whole book just on that one topic. Very important topic. So we're honoring one of those Leela avatars, Lord Ramachandra. And as the ideal king, he's showing in a variety of ways standards of conduct. So one of the ways, like in Krishna's pastimes, he speaks Bhagavad Gita, Dharma Sangsthapanartaya Sambhavami Yuge Yuge. He speaks principles of Dharma. And he makes reference in Bhagavad Gita to Vedanta Sutra, meaning he also honored the authority of Vedanta Sutra, which means he honored the authority of Vyasa, because Vyasa was the compiler, compiled and divided the Vedas into 4, which previously was 1, and then summarized it all in his explanation of Vedanta Sutra. So Krishna in Bhagavad Gita refers to Vedanta Sutra, which means Vyasa compiled it before Krishna spoke Bhagavad Gita. Just the chronology is there. Gives something of the understanding of Vyasa as a contemporary of Krishna. A little from our discussion yesterday. Yesterday we discussed a number of things, but Sita entering into the fire in Lanka to prove to the world that she was pure and had not been defiled or contaminated by contact with Ravana. So we referred yesterday evening, there's different Ramayanas in addition to Valmiki Ramayana that our acharyas make reference to. And in Valmiki Ramayana, for example, there's no Maya Sita. Sita is stolen and kidnapped by Ravan. But in 3 other Ramayanas, we'll just mention one of them. One that's mentioned in Chaitanya Charitamrita, that's Kurma Purana. In Kurma Purana, just as Ravana was approaching Sita, she was taken custody of by Agni, and she manifested a Maya Sita, and that's who Ravana kidnapped. And Agni took charge, protected Sita until it was time. In fact, the Kurma Purana says Agni took her to be with Parvati, and that's where she stayed until it was time for her to return. It's the original Sita that came out and the Maya Sita that entered the fire, according to Kurma Purana, which is different than Valmiki Purana, but an authoritative presentation. Now, how do you reconcile that? Well, was Valmiki wrong? Or was Vyasadeva wrong? Because there are 2 different versions, so which one's right and how come they got it wrong? And the answer to that is, one of the answers, the ages of mankind cycle. So sometimes it may be a description of Sita in this Dwapara Yuga, and another time in another Dwapara Yuga, and another time in another Dwapara Yuga, another time in another Dwapara Yuga. You with me? No, not so difficult, right? Here's a little example. Explicitly, Jiva Goswami says when Shukadeva Goswami, he doesn't make mistakes, he's describing Lord Varaha, the boar incarnation. According to the scriptures, the boar incarnation appears during the period of different manus, manu number 5 and manu number 7. And one of them is red and the other one is white. And Shukadeva Goswami just merges the two narrations. He doesn't say, over here I'm talking about the white one, over there I'm talking about the red one. He just combines the two. Now, we wouldn't know that because we haven't read them. And we don't know but Jiva Goswami does. And so there are two Varahas during two different manus. So similarly, different yuga cycles, Ramchandra appears in cycles, and Sita appears and she does different things. Variations on the theme of. Prabhupada's explanation is really nice. Variety is the mother of enjoyment, and the Lord is the best of enjoyers. According to the Vedas, Raso Vai Saha. The Saha, the absolute truth, is Rasa. He really knows how to enjoy. So there's variations so that he can enjoy. No problem. But there are certain themes that aren't so varied in the presentation of the various Ramayanas. And one of them is, Lord Ram exhibits the character of the ideal king, and as the ideal king, he shows the world for all posterity in the future. What is the standard of Dharma? What's the standard of morality? What is to be done? What is not to be done? Now there's some confusing things, some easy to understand things, but some seemingly at least confusing things. So that's our topic for now. And with the view in mind that we'll just take the position that Hanuman takes, and Shukadeva Goswami takes, and Vyasadeva takes, and we have good company. Lord Ramachandra is the personality of Godhead. And as the personality of Godhead, he's not a conditioned soul that makes mistakes. We're conditioned souls, and we have 4 defects, and one of them is Bhrama, Brahma. We make mistakes. But Ramachandra doesn't make mistakes. We talked a little bit about this yesterday, right? Why did Ram make a mistake? Why did he go after this Marichi deer? He must have known he's omniscient, and look what trouble he went through, look what trouble Sita went through. Why did he make a mistake? It wasn't a mistake. Very enthusiastic. So we're going to discuss 4 of the ways in which Ram was establishing standards of morality for the world. And from easier to understand, and then a little more difficult to understand progressively as we go down the list. Just 4. There's many, but upholding the words of his father, accepting Vibhishan within Ram's army. At least amongst the Vanaras there was a lot of disagreement, whether he should or shouldn't. His taking a vow before Sharabhanga, to kill the forest Rakshasas, and his slaying of Bali, the most enigmatic amongst them. So, you ready? Here we go. He was upholding the word of Dasarath by entering into the Dandak forest for 14 years. Now, some people say, well, Lakshmana said, this is wrong. His father said, why are you obeying me? And you know all the different arguments. People suffered. Dasarath died. Other family members underwent enormous difficulty, what to speak of Sita, because he entered the forest. But he was showing the world this virtue of an ideal king is one is to keep one's word, and even above one's own word is the word of his father Dasarath. Dasarath gave his word, and as far as the son, Dasarath's son, there's no more meaningful purpose for him to fulfill than upholding the truth of the word of his father. So truth, satyam, can mean lots of things. It can mean the distinction between telling a lie. That's another one of the defects of a conditioned soul. You see something, but you report differently. Cheating, in blunt language, or lying and cheating. That's one idea of truth. I only speak the truth. When I grew up in America, well, some of you grew up in America, younger ones, there was this virtue of George Washington. You know that one? Did you learn that in school?
Yeah, I'm learning it right now.
You're learning it right now, okay. George Washington was asked, did you chop down the cherry tree?
Yeah, he did, and then he said yes.
I cannot tell a lie. I did it. Even though he meant, uh-oh, you're going to get a spanking, some retribution for this. I cannot tell a lie. I did it. I chopped down the tree with my axe. He was a little boy playing, chopped down a cherry tree. Cannot tell a lie. So he is honored to this day for upholding the truth. That's one idea of truth. Then there's another idea of truth, and that is a vow. You say something, careful what you say, because if you say something, you must abide by it. And he gave his vow that he would uphold the word of his father. But for him, what's the question of, if his father said, enter into fire, I'd enter into fire. Because that's most important to me, the words of my father desire. So, was it the standard of morality? When you uphold morality, there may be consequences. When George Washington said, I cannot tell a lie, I did it. I chopped down the cherry tree. Who knows what retribution came to him? But it's a principle of truthfulness or goodness that persons that are bearers of virtue must stand by. I hope you don't mind stories to embellish or help illustrate. I'll say in 3-4 minutes something that could take a half an hour. There's a historical event where in India, during the life of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, there was a big uproar between this group of intellectuals and that group of intellectuals. Believe it or not, intellectuals disagree sometimes. And when they were disagreeing, it was getting violent. because it was India. And one group said you have to be born in a Brahmin family to worship Shalagram Shila and to study the Vedas and to chant Vedic mantras. If you're not born in a Brahmin family, you forget it. And then there's another group of people that said, within the Vedas, it says there's a Panchatrika system, and one can become qualified by proper training and by the Panchatrika system. And such a person can become a Brahmana by training and proper procedure, and then they can be qualified to study the Vedas and chant Vedic mantras and worship Shalagram Shila. And it was becoming violent. You know, this group, that group, they didn't just like, hey, let's talk it out. It's getting dangerous for Brahmanas to say, sometimes lose it. So they all had regard for Bhaktivinoda Thakur, because Bhaktivinoda Thakur was born in a Brahmin family and knew Brahmanism. And he was also a Vaishnava and had become immersed in the teachings of Vaishnavism and is respected by both groups, so they approached him. Could you mediate this and help us stop bloodshed? At that time, he was very, very ill. He was bedridden, literally. And he was moaning, is there not one person in the whole of India that cannot resolve this issue? What an unfortunate circumstance India has come to today. Such a fundamental principle. How sad, how unfortunate. So he was expressing this verbally, and his son heard and said, oh, if you like, I can do. Please do. So you're my representative, you're my son, the son represents the father, you can do. So he went. And he, those of you that have graduate degrees, one of the things that you do is you write a paper for your master's thesis or PhD, you write a paper. And so you're going to speak something, what you do is you present a paper, and then you present your paper orally, but then all the people that are attending the conference can read the paper and criticize it to no end, to their heart's content. Criticize and criticize. That's academia. Right? So he wrote a paper that's now in the form of a little book. Not too big, but it's heavy because it's Bhaktisiddhanta. And the first half of the book was presented, he took a whole day out of a 5-day conference, a whole day dedicated to saying, Brahmanas are great. This scriptural reference, that scriptural reference that even the by birth Brahmanas didn't know. They were like, wow, this guy's good. He knows his stuff. We're at the top. Brahmanism ki jai. And then the next day was, but a Brahmana must know Brahman, and Brahman in its complete form is Bhagavan, so a perfected Brahman is a Vaishnava. And one doesn't become a Brahmana without qualification. And so Vaishnava in the Panchatrika system can provide that means of becoming a Vaishnava, which then is the topmost amongst the Brahmanas. And they were, oh. And the others were going, yay. And then there were 2 days of debate. This group, that group had their spokespersons. And then the 5th day was Bhaktisiddhanta day. And he spoke for 2 hours. And at the end of those 2 hours, both sides stood and gave him a standing ovation. It was Vaishnavism. Both are to be honored. Krishna honors Brahmanas. And amongst the Brahmanas, Vaishnavas are the superlative. And one can come to that position by training and qualification, according to the Vedas. So in the Brahmana section, we're going to get back to this Satyam idea. He said of all the qualities of a Brahmana, the utmost top quality is truthfulness, or saralata, You'll see that term again in the course of this presentation. So remember the term. You'll see it on the screen. Coming attractions. Saralata. And he quoted from the Upanishads, saying one young boy approached Gautama and said, I'd like to become your disciple. He said, very well. What's your Gotra? He said, I don't know. He said, go ask your mother, she'll tell you. And so he went to ask his mother, and she said, I don't know. When I was young, I was a maidservant with so many men, I don't even know who your father is. But you can tell Gautama, your name is Satyakama and my name is Jabala, so you're Satyakama Jabala. So he went back and told Gautama everything his mother said. And Gautama said, very well, accept you as a disciple. Because only one who is truthful can speak what you just spoke. You have the qualification of a Brahmana. And he gave him some service, go gather wood, and gave him an instruction, never depart from the truth. So that's way up there of importance of a Brahmana, and it's way up there in the importance of a king. It's way up there in the importance of values of how to live your life, aside from being a Vaishnava, just having the value of upholding your word and upholding the word of those who are teaching you. In this case, it was his father or others who are your teachers. It's a character trait that's that of an ideal person. And so he entered into the forest. And as he entered into the forest, the residents of Ayodhya, they were smashed, etc. It's, the whole story. Bharata and everyone coming to persuade him, come back, come back, come back. I can't. I will not. He was unswerving in upholding the word of his father. We discussed this yesterday evening. Here's a prayer by Hanuman speaking about his entering into the forest and seemingly after some time being separated from Sita. Since Lord Ramachandra is the Supreme Personality Godhead, Vasudeva, he is not attached to anything in this material world. He is the most beloved supersoul of all self-realized souls, and he is their very intimate friend. He is full of all opulences, therefore he could not possibly have suffered because of separation from his wife, nor could he have given up his wife and Lakshmana, his younger brother. To give up either would have been absolutely impossible. What to speak of everybody else in Ayodhya? Impossible. So if it's impossible, then what is it? What's the answer? The Leela, right?
Yeah.
Because he's a Leela avatar. It's a Leela avatar. Through his Leela, he's teaching the importance of Satyam at any cost. So, if you remember from the list, this is number 2. The acceptance of Vibhishan. And this is a really wonderful scene. I like the painting too. There's Vibhishan and his 4 ministers. There's details which there isn't time for, but those of you that attended the South India Yatra, you'll remember the details, the 4 ministers and how they're related. Nice. And of course Ram, Lakshman, and Hanuman, and Sugriva. A little bit of the background. How is Vibhishan related to Ravana? Well, they were brothers, but even their names indicates difference of personality. Ravana was a name given to him after his birth, in his adulthood, by Lord Shiva. It means roaring, or he of terrifying roar. The image shows Ravana went to get to see Lord Shiva, and he was prevented from coming by Nandi. And he started ridiculing Nandi, and Nandi said, I could destroy you, but your pride is going to destroy yourself. So Ravana wasn't going to take that, so he decided he would lift up the whole of Mount Kailash. And as he was lifting up the whole of Mount Kailash started trembling, and Parvati turned to Lord Shiva, what's this? It said, it's this little pipsqueak, Ravana. So with his toe, he pressed down Mount Kailash, so much so that Ravana couldn't budge it. In fact, he couldn't even get out from underneath it. He was crushed, not only by the weight of Mount Kailash, but the power of Lord Shiva. And on and on and on, and then his veins were sticking out, and so he was plucking his veins because he learned music when he was younger. Singing the songs of glorifying Lord Shiva lifted his toe and gave him some benedictions, and gave him this name, Ravana. But his brother had the opposite meaning, Vaishravana, meaning one who hears distinctly. So here's a genealogy chart. Brahma had, as one of his direct sons was Palasya, the 10 sages that were born directly from the body of Brahma. One of them was Palasya, and there's details which we don't need right now or have time for. He married the daughter of another sage, Trinabindu, and the combination of Palasya and Trinabindu, Vishrava, very, very exalted personality, became their son. And Bharadwaj Muni understood the exalted nature of Vishrava. He requested Vishrava to accept his daughter as his wife, and another very, very qualified son, Vaishravana, became born later. He became Kuvera. There's a long history that if you listen to the Ayodhya Yatra, you'll hear the details and details. So Vishrava, highly qualified Brahmana, had as a son Vaishravana. But then there was a second wife, and it was a little sneaky, but a Rakshasa named Sumali and Tataka, you remember her name, Tataka? We know Tataka. She was bad. But Tataka and Sumali had one of their children was Kaikashi. And so it's a long story, which you can hear if you want, and hear the Ayodhya Yatra Katha. And an innocent approach was made under the instigation of mother and father, because they wanted a qualified son that could outdo Kuvera. That was the intention. So the Daityas could be, successful, have a qualified father of their grandchild. So he accepted her as his wife. And then there were 4 children. Dasagriva, who was later named Ravana by Lord Shiva. Kumbhakarna, Vibhishana. So Vibhishana is one of the brothers of the same mother-father, and Suparnaka. And there's a list of other personalities that if you go to Google, you'll get the wrong information, but it's, they're cousins, but not brothers and sisters. Watch out for Google and for information, by the way. So the first meeting between Hanuman and Vibhishan takes place when Hanuman assumed the form of a Brahmana, because he had this benediction from Lord Brahma from the time of his early childhood that he could assume different forms. So he assumed the form of a Brahmana. And he wanted to check out Vibhishana because he got the understanding that Vibhishana is a devotee of Ram. So he approached him and came to understand he's gentle. He's not like the others here in Lanka. And through passage of time, of course, Hanuman found Sita, then he lit the city of Lanka on fire to teach them a lesson, saw the burning of the city of Lanka, came back, and then when the horde of Vanaras came, they were ready. Here's Ravana having seen the destruction of Lanka from just one monkey. How powerful was Hanuman? So he got his ministers together. This is obviously an old painting of how they made demons look. Polka-dotted demons with short pants. Big horns and fangs. So they were all lauding and praising him, saying, "Oh, you're so strong." There he is at the top. The laser pointer doesn't work with these, but that's on the top. Ravana is consulting with his ministers, and they're down at the bottom. They're praising him, saying, "You're the best. You have nothing to worry about." And the maternal grandfather of Ravana, named Malyavana, he went privately to Ravana and told him, "You're going to bring the destruction of our whole dynasty. Don't spoil everything. It's the wrong thing that you've done." He got this kind of advice from multiple people, but here's his grandfather saying, "But Ravana, too lusty, too attached to his intention of being the enjoyer of another man's wife." Similarly, Vibhishan tried to reason, and there's multiple times without the detail because of our time. He tried and he tried and he tried to the point where this is after the Vanaras had come. There was this assembly. No, they hadn't yet to come. They're assembling. Spies were sent to go see what's going on the other side of the ocean, and huge assembly of warriors. Anyway, Vibhishan left along with 4 ministers. And then that other nice painting, but here it shows, there's Rama and Lakshman. They have nice beards. That's this particular artist didn't know that they didn't have beards. And down in the corner is, of course, Jambavan. And wearing the crown in between Lakshman and Ram is Sugriva. And then there's Vibhishan with his 4 ministers. So the previous painting is more accurate because, according to these from Valmiki Ramayana, he hovered in the air. He had this. It took him 1 hour. It took Hanuman a long time to cross, but it took Vibhishan 1 hour. And there he was. He just rose from the assembly. In 1 hour, he made it his way to where Ram was. And Ram did what kings do. He asked his ministers, "What's your opinion?" Of course, he was going to make the final decision. And interestingly, each one of them had a slightly different perspective, but it was largely, we don't trust him. So one was just send him back, whether give him a test drive and see how it works, and another was, we'll just watch him and how he speaks. And then someone said, no, he can say anything, but what's in his heart, who can say? He understands that Ravana is going to get defeated, and so he's thinking, I'm next in line, so I'll be with those that are going to defeat him. He's just motivated of selfish interest, we don't trust him, da-da-da-da-da. So, Hanuman didn't speak until he was called upon. That was part of his politeness, his character. And when called upon, he disagreed with everybody. And Hanuman said, just hearing his voice, because he had this acumen, just hearing somebody's voice, you could understand about their nature. I don't see anything in his face And I don't hear anything in his voice that said we should mistrust him. He's come to take shelter of Ram, whatever his motivation may be. Maybe he does want to become the king. Whatever his motivation is, he's taking shelter of Ram. And we should accept him. He is wise. He understands that Ravana is wrong and Ram is superior, and we should accept him. So what did Ram say after everyone? Then Hanuman said, what is your opinion? So this I remember as a young brahmachari hearing this statement again and again, and I never knew where it was from, but then finally after reading Ramayana I came to know where it was from. Ram said, everyone, listen very carefully. I declare it boldly. If a person comes to me saying, I am yours, only once, then I shall give him courage and protection from all danger forever after. That is my solemn vow made here before you all. Even if Ravana himself came, I would not refuse him shelter. Bring Vibhishan here, for I have already granted him safety. It was already done. Like, the Kurukshetra battle is already over. He's already been accepted. That's Ram. Because it's his nature. Now, those of you that are from Sri Vaishnava background, you probably know, after Ramanujacharya left, there were two groups that formed on this very point. There are different Sanskrit names for the northern and southern division, and some say, just surrender once, that's it. And make this reference, just surrender once, prapati, and you're good. Then there's others that say it's an ongoing process of surrender, it's not just once. Our teaching is more similar to the second. We surrender, and it's an ongoing process of further surrender, not just surrender again, but deepening that surrender. The Sri Vaishnavas that are of this second disposition indicate that the four ministers, they represent these four aspects of surrender. One is the person who's surrendering and the person who is accepting the surrender. I can make this presentation available to you so you can find it later. You don't have to memorize it or write it down now. Akinchana tvam. Tvam is having the quality of akinchana, where the person who is surrendering understands, I don't possess anything which I see as shelter. It's a phrase that Kunti uses, akinchana gochara, in her prayers, Kunti's prayers, akinchana gochara. So, and kinchana vitaya, akinchana. No other shelter than one. I don't possess anything, akinchana. She has akinchana doesn't mean you're a mendicant. It means you don't have any other shelter. You may have a lot, you may have little, you may have something in between. What's your shelter? Now, kinchana is no other shelter. And ananya gatitvam, ananya gati. Since I have nowhere else to go to take shelter, I fully repose my shelter-taking spirit in the sharanya, the person giving me shelter. So I don't have, it's negative and positive. Is it clear? Then the other two ministers representing the person being surrendered unto. This is Sri Vaishnava commentary on this pastime. Saralata, same phrase that Bhaktisiddhanta used, it's a quality of a Brahmana, but when it's reposed in the personality of Godhead, he gives shelter to anyone without any consideration of who they are. Simplicity, or in this case, the used by Bhaktisiddhanta, is straightforward. There's nothing to hide. And someone approaches the Saralata, Lord Ram, and anyone, a squirrel, a bear, a demon, doesn't matter. It's the genuine spirit of submission. He'll accept anyone from any background. It's the same point that's found again and again in the Bhagavatam, without elaborating. I'll just say one. It's a theme in Prahlad's prayers, because he calls himself an unqualified person. But Lord Nrsingadev is so kind, he accepts even me, son of a demon, da-da-da-da-da, but he accepts me anyways. That's the nature of our Lord. That's Saralata. And Shakti, the person who one surrenders unto, has the power to deliver. Again, it's a statement found again and again in the scriptures. What to speak of, being a person to surrender unto, the scriptures, Bhagavatam tells us, you shouldn't become a mother or a father. Lots of mothers and fathers out there in the world. And if you don't have this capacity of delivering your dependents from birth and death, then don't become mother or father, or teacher, or guru, or head of state, or demigod, or any other person that's in the superior to a subordinate position. First qualify yourself, then take that position. And then you have the responsibility. You have to get the capacity first. So we're halfway done. There's another painting. There's the four ministers and Vibhishan taking shelter of Ram. So now this third one, when Ram enters the forest, very early in the Aranya Kanda section of Ramayana, is Ram visits the hermitage of Sharabhanga. And when he visits the hermitage of Sharabhanga, they receive him very nicely. Now these are brahmanas, but they're receiving the son of Dasarath in a very honored way. And in the background there's Lakshman and Sita, and the sages are receiving him, honoring him with a special tree stump seat and whatever forest delicacies they have, and sweet words and so forth. And in the course of staying at Sharabhanga's ashram, he sees off in the background a pile of bones. And Ram asks, "What's that?" And Sharabhanga says, "Oh, that's sages that were devoured by the Rakshasas. That's what's left of them, the pile of bones. And since you're in the forest, you're the son of Dasarath, can you help us? Can you give us protection from these Rakshasas so we can engage in our austerities and meditation and sacrifices without risk of our lives?" So Ram takes a vow to protect the sages. And so there's some more that happens. And as they're walking through the forest, it's a really nice section where Sita turns to Ram. She's disturbed. And he can see they're married. He can say, "My wife is disturbed." That's how we were married. You know what I'm talking about. So Ram asked, "What's the matter?" She said, "You took this vow to kill persons who you've never even met before. They've never done anything to harm you. And you've taken a vow to enter the forest, and you're carrying your bow and carrying your arrows and got your sword, and you're very powerful. But even a good person can become corrupted. There's this saying that there's 3 ways that a good man can become corrupted. So this is a lesson. 1 is lusting for another man's wife. And another is not upholding his word. But those first 2, that's not, if you deviate from truth, you can easily fall into the next and the next. But neither of them are, I know you're not going to, you have no attraction for some other man's wife. But the third is, when one has something powerful, then one can become corrupted. Become proud, and then become corrupted. So she gives an example. She said there's this description of one sage that was in the forest, and he becomes so powerful by his austerities that Indra started getting nervous. Indra does stuff like that sometimes. And so he came in the disguise of a king, and he was traveling through the forest, and he was carrying a sword, and he said, "My dear sage, how opportune to find you here in the forest. I brought my sword with me, but I really don't need it. Can I just leave it with you for safekeeping? I'll come back and get it later." And the sage said, "Sure, you can leave it here. I'll keep it safely for you." And so, keeping his word, the sage, when he went to take his bath, took the sword with him to the river, and when he went to get berries and roots, he took the sword with him, and when he did whatever he did, he had the sword in his hand, and he started getting attached to the sword in his hand. He started feeling there was power from the sword in his hand. And so one time, with the sword, he hurt some innocent person. I forget the detail. And he fell. And Indra's plan worked. So you've taken a vow to protect the sages and kill the Rakshasas, but that's even before they've done anything to you, and this is my concern. And then she fell silent. Ram was smiling. He said, "Your love for me is just so special. No one could speak the word that you spoke except you, because of your attachment for me. You say that I'll never deviate from my word. So right here and now, I'll give you my word. I'll never use my sword or my weapons for anything other than upholding the principles of Dharma. I'm the son of Dasarath. And although I'm in exile in the forest, I'm the son of Dasarath, and Bharat is now the king, and I'm serving him. And so it's our duty as the royal family to give protection to the Brahmanas and to all others from the hands of harmful people. That's our duty. It's my Dharma to do this. And requested by the sages, I couldn't say no. Then I gave my word. I will not deviate from my word to them, and I will not deviate from my word to you. I will never use these weapons for anything other than the cause of Dharma." So she was happy. Making one's wife happy is not always the easiest thing, but it worked with Ram. And here's the fourth, and this is, one of those items that is the most puzzling for some. Standing behind a tree, Ram fires an arrow and hits the chest of Vali and slays Vali. Now, how is that upholding Dharma? He's the personality Godhead. He could have done this in any one of a million different ways, and he chose this way. Why? Huh?
Vali is still an animal.
Yeah, there's many. So there's multiple. That's one part of a puzzle. When Sita it was known, Jatayu said they went that way, and so he was searching, and when demon said, you take the help of, after slaying him, he released him from bondage of his curse, take the help of Sugriva, he's in a similar situation, where do I find him? You go that way. Eventually he ended up with Sugriva, without the details of the step by step. And over fire, they both took a vow that they would assist one another in their common mission. And who would help which one first? Well, they were in Kishkinda, and so Sugriva said, can you help me first? And so the plan was made. But Sugriva wasn't really sure. Bali is so powerful. Is it really possible he can help me overcome the power of Bali? So Ram knew his mind. He didn't say anything, but Ram knew his mind, so he said, watch this. One arrow, fired one arrow, went in one side and out the other side, and then to the next tree, and the next tree, and the 7 sal trees, and then down to the center of the universe and back up again into the quiver of Ram. Whoa, that was good. Let's go take care of Bali. So a plan was made, and they had a big battle, and towards the end of the battle, Sugriva got knocked out. He just ran for his life and came to Ram saying, you're supposed to help me, but you just stood there. And Ram said, well, I wasn't sure which one was which. Your short pants, I couldn't tell which one was which. You look so much alike. So I didn't want to fire the arrow with the wrong one and get you instead of Bali. But the solution is, I'll give you this nice garland. And you wear the garland. Of course, when they're wrestling, how's the garland going to stay on his neck? But anyway, so wearing a garland to distinguish between the two, there's Ram hiding behind the 7 sal trees, and the big battle's going on. Of course, there's Sugriva is wearing the garland, and then it's almost he's getting finished again. Bali is so powerful, and Ram shoots the arrow and it hits the chest of Bali. Now, what does Bali have to say? He's heard about Ram, and he criticizes Ram very severely. I've heard the glories of you that's supposed to be virtuous. How could you have done this vicious act? It's because of the association of my brother. He's contaminated you. And Ram was just smiling. I'll read because it's so nice. Valmiki Ramayan. O Vali, it seems that with the deterioration of your body, even your intelligence is getting deteriorated. You're accusing me of immorality without understanding the intricacies of Dharma. And then he starts describing the Dharma of what he has done. I'm the servant of Bharat. No, in this case he doesn't say I'm the son of Dasarath because Bharat has agreed to become the king, or on behalf of Ram, serve as the king. I'm the son of Bharat. And he's the ruler of the whole world. And although he's my younger brother, he's my superior, and I have to serve on his behalf. And as the Kshatriya class, we have to protect the innocent and punish the unrighteous. That's number one. So what wrong have you done? Here's the wrong you have done. For no reason whatsoever, you've misunderstood the intentions and the position of your brother, and you've acted in a very cruel way. There was no fault on his part, but you attacked him, you insulted him, you exiled him, you threatened to take away his life, you started cohabiting with his wife, even in his presence. You're an aggressor, fit to be punished. According to the Vedas, when a person becomes an aggressor with malevolent intention, he deserves to be killed, and there's no sin in killing such an aggressor. And he gives examples. So as a duty to my brother and as a Kshatriya, you're to be punished. And a fit punishment for you is the death penalty. What you have done, death penalty is fit. And then the third reason is what you said. According to the codes of Dharma, when doing combat or fighting with an animal, you may take cover and not stand out in the open. This is Kshatriya code. So you're faulting me for violating Dharma. But you're the violator of Dharma. And you're so adharmic that you're thinking someone else is the violator of Dharma. Vali, if you feel that I've wronged you, I can give you back your life right now. Then it's very nice. Pages and pages and pages of explanation in detail is invested in explaining all of this. And as soon as Vali hears two things, being in the direct association of Ram and hearing Ram's words and hearing his voice, Vali becomes immediately purified. Actually, Vali is a good person. He became bad because of pride, similar to what Sita was saying to Ram. When one becomes powerful, one has some opulence, it's very easy to become proud. And when you become proud, it's very easy to be cruel. This is exactly what Narada says when considering the situation of Nala Kuvera and Manigriva. Because they were sons of Kuvera, they had this special position, they had wealth, they had beauty, they had the favor of Lord Shiva, so they just became so proud. And Narada, the verses say, one who is proud, they can do any cruel thing and feel justified because of their pride. So the real problem is too much pride, and the root of that pride is the false ego sense of being the proprietor of something and being proud of that something. So the Supreme Lord takes away pride from the heart of his devotee. That's what he did with Vali. And when he removed the pride from Vali's heart, he became good. Vali said, "My dear Lord, many lives I will get, but when I get a death like this, when will I get a death like this again? In your presence, giving up my life, that's the greatest of fortune. It's the perfection of my life. I wish to only see your face as I depart from this world." Immediately, he had this very special necklace that made him, it was a gift from the demigods, it made him invincible from a weapon of others. And he could have given the necklace to his son, but instead he gave it to Sugriva. And then he told his son, don't have any negative feelings towards Sugriva. Don't think that it's he or Ram that killed me. It's my own sinful activities that was the cause of my death. So respect them, respect Sugriva as you have respected me. Respect Ram as the worshipable Lord. And then he requested, Sugriva, take care of my son as your own son. Take care of my wife in my absence. Ram was very pleased with the change of heart of Vali. Sugriva, then he gave up his life. So Sugriva was feeling very bad. Because of me, my brother is now dead. And in his absence, how can I rule the kingdom that was his? And Ram said, this is how. It was his desire. He instructed you, just follow the instruction of your brother and rule the kingdom in his absence. That's his instruction. Just take that instruction. Now, we're almost done. Okay, he wasn't in violation of Dharma, but he could have done it in any one of 999,999 different ways. Why didn't he do it like, just face him in combat and kill him? Would you like to know why?
Yes.
Because something mentioned earlier, just like Lord Nrsingadev appeared in the form that he appeared to uphold the words of Brahma. And Ram appeared the way that he appeared to uphold the words of Brahma. So similarly, Bali had undergone extensive, extreme austerities and wanted, when the demigods came, he wanted immortality. He said, we can't give you immortality, but he was very clever. He said, I ask for the benediction that whenever I'm engaged in combat with anybody, I will get half of whatever their power is. So there's my power, and then there's half of their power, and it's going to overpower whatever the power I have. It's going to overpower them. And every time he had combat, he would always be victorious. Because whatever power he had, plus half of their power, he would win. And he would never lose. And that was a benediction given by the demigods. So if there was a battle between the Supreme Lord, Vishnu, or Rama, well, that benediction of the demigods would be superseded, because they would go right over the top of anything they said, but he wanted to uphold what they said. So he did it the way that he did it. It wasn't in battle. It was hiding behind a tree. He's the upholder, back to Satyam. He is the upholder of the word of the Devas. He's the upholder of the word of his father. He's the upholder of his own word and those of other great souls. That's the ideal morality, the ideal virtuous king. Lord Ramachandra ki jai. Nice, huh? With Ram's pastimes, there's two main categories. There's the instruction to worldly people category, and there's the rasa category. And the rasa category is also very profound. That's another time. We're not going to go, there isn't time. But embedded by the assistance of the scripture and our great acharyas, we can learn so many things about how to live our lives. And therefore, I remember Prabhupada saying when he was young, even in his generation, whenever there was some public function, whatever it was, there was always some recitation of Mahabharata or Ramayana. Why? Because it would uphold virtue within society. That's India, or land of Bharsha. Now it's become, bring a Bollywood star, or somebody that gets on stage and wiggles. Or a politician, and you get a lot of people to come. The virtue has been lost. Therefore, when we have our activities amongst devotees and the activities that we do with children, it'll help them become fixed in virtue. And it's very direct. It's just hearing the pastimes of the personality of Godhead. It cleanses the heart, and it lifts character just by hearing. They may not understand the stories in the ways that I just described. They're doing something else right now. But that's the effect. Hearing of Srimad Bhagavatam, hearing of Ramayana, hearing of Mahabharata, hearing these essential teachings. It gives knowledge, and it gives purification of the heart. It builds character. The essential part of education is character development. Say it the other way. Without character development, education is a dangerous thing. Put something powerful in the hands of a fool. It's dangerous, as newspapers today are showing us. Very dangerous. Very dangerous. Increasingly dangerous. Solution? Encourage by every possible means that people should hear from the right sources, not just Google or some other internet source. From the right sources, the name, fame, qualities. This is Bhagavad Dharma. That's the panacea. That's the medicine. So, any discussion on any of this? Questions, comments? Yeah.
Thank you, Maharaj. When Vibhishana came to surrender, Lord Ram, came for surrender to Lord Ramchandra, Lord Ramchandra has already decided to give shelter.
Because he surrendered.
Yeah, he already decided to give shelter.
Because he surrendered.
Yeah. Then why did he ask the opinion of his...
He's teaching by example. He's teaching by example. That's what kings do. They consult their ministers. Something? No. Yes.
How does one reinstate oneself in the principle of Ananya Gatitvam?
How does one restate oneself in the principle of Ananya Gatitvam? Well, you cultivate the mood of surrender. So we're here. This is just where we are and what we know. There's a big gap between the two, and we cultivate because we need role models, and we need teachers and teachings, and a process of purification, so we can remove the contamination that keeps us from where we want to be. You cultivate, you abhyasa. Yoga yoktena cetasa nanyagamino. That's what we do. We cultivate. Anything else? Okay. Lunchtime, right? Jai. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Before all the children come upstairs and it becomes noisy again, I'm going to give out some Mahaprasadam, and if there's anyone here that has not yet received one of the yatras of Ayodhya or Dwarka, come see me and I can make them available to you. If you don't know what I'm talking about, come see me and I'll let you know what I'm talking about. Okay. Prabhupada.
they all come to the Wednesday class.
All of these kids?
All of them. No, these.
Go back a little bit so I can get you.
ಇದು ಅನ್ಪ್ಲಗ್ பண்ணிடலாம்.
USB. So you connect it to your computer and you can see all the videos.
Who's coming, who's going all over the place?
I love it.
water there, or you can take it from that. And then there's the water bottle. Yeah, you can take it. You can serve it on a plate, take your spoon and your napkin, and then you can take it downstairs.
bathroom off you can ask
First, class எடுப்பீங்கல்ல? ஆமா. We should next ask them what they want to eat. I want to see everything. Sure. Definitely. I'll let you know. Thank you so much.